properties like interference, diffraction, and the polarization. Now, whenever you are studying these optical phenomena, that is like interference, diffraction, polarization, exhibited by light, so in that case, we assume that the propagation of the light will be in the form of a wave. So we assume that the propagation of light is in the form of a wave. Then we take interference. So interference is nothing but when two light waves are superimposed with each other, then the variation of intensity of the resultant light wave is known as interference. Coming to diffraction, when light waves are going to fall on an obstacle, then these light waves are going to bend around the edges of an obstacle. There is nothing but diffraction. Now, if you consider polarization, if you consider ordinary light wave, then it will have the vibrations in all possible directions. So we are making the vibrations of the light wave to be in a particular direction only. So that process of making the vibrations of the light wave to be in a particular direction, that corresponds to polarization. Therefore, we can say that if we want to study the optical phenomena like interference, diffraction, polarization, so in that we consider the propagation of light as a wave. Now the same light is also exhibiting the phenomena like photoelectric effect and Compton effect, etc. Now if we consider these effects which are exhibited by the same light, in order to study or explain these phenomena, we assume that light will be propagating in the form of particle. So same light exhibiting different phenomena. For the study of certain optical phenomena, we assume that the propagation of light will be in the form of a wave. The same wave, when it is going to exhibit some other effects or some more optical phenomena, so to explain that, we are assuming that the propagation of light is a particle. That means from this we can say that same light, we are assuming it is having a wave nature for the explanation of certain optical phenomena. Same light, to explain certain optical phenomena, we are assuming it is particle. That means light is assumed to be having a particle nature to explain certain optical phenomena, is assumed to be having a wave nature to explain other optical phenomena. Therefore, the light is going to exhibit both the particle nature as well as wave nature, and that property is when it's a dual nature of light. So this dual nature of light will indicate you that light can exhibit both particle as well as wave nature. Since light is going to exhibit both particle as well as wave nature, so that property we can say that light is having a dual nature. Now in this case, we are relating particle with wave because it is exhibiting both particle and then wave. Now how these two can be related? So for this, now we want to relate the particle with respect to wave or wave with respect to particle. So both we want to see. How these two can be related with each other. How the light is going to exhibit dual nature, that is behaving as a particle, behaving as a wave. Now for this, first if we consider the parameters which are required to describe the motion of the particle. So if we consider a particle, so definitely this particle will have certain quantity. So that quantity is known as a mass. And this quantity, that is the mass of the particle, definitely it is going to occupy certain space. So this is the space it is going to occupy. Therefore, corresponding it will have a position. Now once if we assume that the application of a force, by application of a force, this particle will be in motion. For example, it is moving along a positive x direction. So in that case, we can say that it is going to change its position. At a particular instant of time, it will be at this position. After a particular instant of time, it will be at this position. So like this particle is going to change its position. So whenever the position is going to change, automatically we get displacement of the particle, therefore it has the parameter displacement. Once it is going to displace its position continuously with respect to time, automatically it have a velocity. Since it has a mass and velocity, it will have a momentum m into v. Since it has a momentum, it will have energy. So whenever the particle is in motion, then to describe that motion of a particle, we require certain physical parameters. So these are the parameters required to describe the motion of a particle. Now coming to a wave. We know that wave is nothing but a disturbance which is created in the medium. So that disturbance will be propagated throughout the medium in the form of a wave. So whenever a disturbance is propagating through the medium, so in that case, we can say that the propagation of a wave in a particular direction is going to disturb the particles which are present in the medium. So some particle will be displaced in upward direction, some particle will be displaced in downward direction. So displacement of particle takes place whenever waves propagates through the medium. That means this propagation of a wave is going to disturb the particles which are present in the medium. So correspondingly, we get displacement of a particle. So some particle will be displaced in upward direction, some particle will be displaced in the downward direction, depending upon the type of the wave that is propagating through the medium. So for a transverse waves, so in that case we get the displacement of a wave in upward direction and downward direction. Next one is the maximum displacement of the particle, that we take it as the amplitude. So the maximum displacement of a particle when wave propagates through the medium is nothing but amplitude. Then the time with which it is going to cover one complete vibration. That means when particle starts mean position, it moves in upward direction, comes back to mean position, it moves in downward direction, again comes back to its mean position. So in that case, it has completed one complete vibration. The time taken to complete one vibration is nothing but time period. The number of vibrations it has completed in 1 second is nothing but frequency. So during one complete vibration, the wave will be propagating or it will be advancing along the positive x direction. Therefore, the distance moved along the positive x direction, along the propagation, along the direction of propagation of the wave, for one complete vibration is nothing but wave length. Next one is phase. When wave propagates in the medium, so different particles will be vibrating in different positions. So some will be vibrating in downward direction, some will be vibrating in upward direction. So if you want to know the position and the direction of vibration of the particles, so if you want to compare, so that is done with help of a phase. So phase always indicates the position and direction of vibration of the particle when wave propagates through the medium, and then eternal intensity. So these are the parameters which are to be covered for the propagation of a wave. So the wave propagation or behavior of a wave can be studied with help of all these parameters. So we have, if we want to study the behavior of a particle, so we need all these parameters, because these parameters are the characteristics of a particle. And if we want to study the wave behavior, then we require all these parameters. Now, if the particle is going to behave in some instant particle, in some instant as a wave, definitely there exists a relationship between all these characteristics which are related to particle and then a wave. So definitely there exists a relationship between these two. So definitely there should be a relationship. Then only we can say that this particle is behaving as a particle as well as a wave. So it is having a dual nature. So how to relate these parameters which are characteristics of a particle and which are the characteristics of a wave? Now for this we consider the Planck's quantum theory for the emission of a photon or emission of a light. Now, if we consider in the laser chapter, we studied the emission of a radiation will be in the form of a photon by considering two definite energy levels. So, same thing we are using here. So, we have a E1 is the lower energy level, E2 is the higher energy level. So that E2 is greater than E1. So we assume electron is present in E1. So when this electron is transiting from E2 to E1, so in that case, it is going to move, it is going to transfer from higher energy level to lower energy level. So definitely it is going to lose energy. That loss of energy will be emitted in the form of a radiation, and this radiation consists of a photon. The emission of radiation will be in the form of photon. So according to Planck's quantum theory, the emission of radiation will be in the form of a photon. And whenever this photon is in motion, then it was observed that it is having a mass and it is having a displacement also, position also. Therefore, it is having displacement. Corresponding, it has velocity. So mass into velocity, momentum, energy. So all the parameters that can be considered for a particle behavior or particle nature can be attributed to this photon. At the same time, when photon is in motion, according to Planck's quantum theory, the energy of that photon is given by E is equal to h nu, where h is the Planck's constant, nu is the frequency of the emitted radiation. If you consider frequency, so this frequency is a very important characteristic property of a parameter of a wave. So, if we consider the energy expression for the photon, so it is given by E is equal to h nu, where nu is the frequency. Therefore, we can say that the propagation of a photon will be in the form of a wave. Therefore, all the parameters which are attributed to be a characteristic parameters for the wave can be satisfied by this photon. So from this we can say that when emission of radiation or emission of light takes place due to the transition of electron from E2 to E1, so in that case it consists of photons, and these photons are observed to be having particle nature as well as wave nature as per the Planck's quantum theory. So according to Planck's quantum theory, we can say that this emitted photon is exhibiting both particle nature as well as a wave nature. Therefore, it is exhibiting dual nature. So previous classes we have seen in the case of a light, some optical phenomena, light will be assumed to be the form of a wave. For other optical phenomena, we assume the propagation of light is the form of a particle. So similarly, the same concept we are getting here. Therefore, if we consider the emission of photon, so this emission of photon will be in the form of a particle as well as a wave. So it is having a particle nature as well as a wave nature. Therefore, it is having a dual nature. Now, the same concept was extended to all the particles by de Broglie. So, according to de Broglie, so here when the photon is in motion, when wave is in propagation, so in that case, it is exhibiting both the particle nature as well as wave nature. That is, it is obeying all the parameters corresponding to a particle as well as a wave. Therefore, it is exhibiting a dual nature. Now, same thing can be expected for any particle which is in motion. So, if we consider a particle which is in motion, for example, it may be electron, or proton, or neutron, or atom, or molecule. So, whatever may be the particle, when this particle is in motion, so definitely should be having the waves, the associated waves, and these waves are known as matter waves or particle waves. So this concept was first predicted by de Broglie. So this prediction of this concept is based on the photon, the behavior of a photon. Since whenever the photon is in motion, so it is exhibiting both the particle nature as well as wave nature and satisfying all the parameters required for particle nature as well as a wave nature. So, if we consider a particle, any particle, when this particle is in motion, definitely it should behave as a photon. So that is the basic concept of the de Broglie. So de Broglie predicted that whenever the particle is in motion, definitely it is associated with a wave, and those waves are known as matter waves or particle waves, or we can say de Broglie waves. And this concept is given by de Broglie, therefore it is known as de Broglie hypothesis of matter waves, or de Broglie concept of matter waves. And this concept is known as de Broglie hypothesis of matter waves. So the basis for de Broglie hypothesis, the photon, whenever photon is in motion, so it is exhibiting particle nature as well as a wave nature. So same concept can be expected for any particle which is in motion. So when particle is in motion, definitely it is going to exhibit all the characteristics of a particle as well as a wave. That means since we consider a particle which is in motion, since the particle is initially behaving as a particle and which is in motion, definitely it is going to exhibit all these parameters, that is mass, displacement, velocity, moment, energy, etc. At the same time, since it is associated with a wave, the propagation of or the motion of the particle is always associated with a wave. Definitely it exhibits all the parameters corresponding to wave nature or wave characteristics like displacement, amplitude, frequency, wavelength, intensity, phase, all those things. Therefore, whenever the particle is in motion, definitely it is always associated with the corresponding wave. That wave is known as a matter wave or de Broglie wave. And since this concept is given by de Broglie, it is known as de Broglie hypothesis of matter waves. Now let us see the dual nature of a matter, which is nothing but the de Broglie hypothesis. So according to de Broglie hypothesis, we can consider that any particle which is in motion, definitely it is associated with a corresponding wave, and that wave is known as a matter wave or de Broglie wave. So first we consider photon. So already we know that photon is going to behave as a particle as well as a wave. Now we apply the de Broglie concept or de Broglie hypothesis to a photon. Now just consider this photon is having a mass of small m, and which is moving with a velocity which is equal to velocity of light. So first we consider the photon of mass m, which is moving with velocity c. Then the energy of that photon, as per Planck's quantum theory, it is given by E is equal to h nu. So energy of a photon is given by E is equal to h nu, where h is the Planck's constant, nu is the frequency. So from this we are saying that it is exhibiting a wave nature, because frequency term is present in the energy expression for a photon. So definitely we expect that it behaves as a wave. The propagation of photon will be in the form of a wave. Now if we consider the mass energy relation, Einstein's mass energy relation, which gives the relationship between the energy of the photon with respect to mass of the photon. So as per the Einstein's mass energy relation, so we can relate energy with respect to mass corresponding to the particle nature. So same energy of the photon can be expressed in terms of mass of a photon, that is equal to E is equal to mc square. So we are having energy expression, one in terms of a frequency that is attributed to the wave nature of a particle, and the second one, the energy of the same particle in terms of mass of the particle, that is E is equal to mc square. Since both the expressions are representing the energy of the same particle, so comparing these two, we can write h nu is equal to mc square. And if we consider lambda is the wavelength of the photon, so in that case, frequency can be written in terms of its wavelength, as frequency is equal to velocity by wavelength. Therefore, the expression for frequency can be written as frequency nu is equal to c by lambda. Now substituting the frequency expression in the previous one, that is h nu is equal to mc square, So in the place of mu, we are replacing the corresponding expression in terms of lambda, that is, mu can be replaced by c by lambda. Therefore, in the place of h mu, h will be there, mu can be replaced by c by lambda, so we get hc by lambda is equal to mc square, from which we get lambda is equal to h by mc. So cc get cancels. So we get 1 by lambda, or if we take lambda, so lambda is going to be h by mc. So by cross multiplication, we can say that the lambda will be moved here, mc will be moving to this position. So we get lambda is equal to hc, where h is the Planck's constant, m is the mass, c is the velocity. So mass into velocity is nothing but moment. So this can be replaced by lambda is equal to h by p. So finally we get the expression for lambda, the wavelength associated with the moving particle. Lambda is given by h by mc, or is equal to h by p, where p is the momentum of the photon. So finally we get the frequency of the photon, and similarly wavelength associated with the photon. So these two indicates that the propagation of the photon will be in the form of a wave. So photon is behaving as a wave as well as a particle. So both can be attributed for the photon, because the energy of photon is given by h nu. At the same time, energy of photon is given by E is equal to mc square. Therefore, it behaves both as a particle as well as a wave. Now, same concept we are expanding to the particle. So previously we assumed that the motion of a photon. Now we consider motion of a particle. Now we have a particle of mass m, which is moving with the velocity v. So if we consider a particle of mass m, which is moving with velocity v, therefore definitely this will be associated with a wave, and the wavelength of that wave which is associated with the moving particle is given by same expression, lambda is equal to h by mv, that is equal to h by p, where m is the mass of the particle, v is the velocity of the particle. Previously velocity of the photon is c, therefore we get mc, but now since we are considering a particle with velocity v, so same expression will be modified as lambda is equal to h by mv. C is replaced by v, so we get h is h by p. So this equation is known as a de Broglie wave equation, and the corresponding wave is known as a de Broglie wave, and the wavelength is a de Broglie wavelength. Therefore, according to this de Broglie hypothesis, we can say that whenever a particle is in motion, so definitely it is associated with a moving wave or with a moving particle, and the wavelength is given by lambda is equal to h by mv or h by p, and corresponding this equation is known as de Broglie wave equation, and lambda is known as de Broglie wavelength. This concept is known as de Broglie matter waves or de Broglie waves, which are associated with the moving particle. So in a simple sense, we can say that whenever a particle is in motion, it is always associated with a wave. So this concept is known as a de Broglie concept or de Broglie hypothesis. So the wavelength associated with the moving particle is given by lambda is equal to h by mv, that is equal to h by p. So it is a very simple concept. Now we want to express the de Broglie wavelength in terms of kinetic energy. So previously we represented the de Broglie wavelength in terms of momentum, that is mass into velocity. So we represented lambda in terms of momentum. Now we want to represent lambda in terms of kinetic energy of the moving particle. Because the particle is in motion, so definitely it will have a kinetic energy. So how to relate the kinetic energy of the moving particle with respect to the de Broglie wavelength? Now we want to relate wavelength with respect to kinetic energy of the moving particle. Now since the particle is in motion, If we assume it is having a particle nature, in that case, the kinetic energy of the particle is given by half mv square. So we know this is the general expression for kinetic energy, where m is the mass of the particle, v is the velocity of the particle, with it is moving with velocity v. So whenever a particle of mass m is moving with velocity v, then it is associated with the kinetic energy. The expression for kinetic energy is given by kinetic energy is equal to half mv square. Now we want the modification of this expression in terms of its momentum. Therefore, in order to modify the expression for kinetic energy in terms of momentum, now we are multiplying the numerator and denominator with small m, mass of the particle. So in that case, it becomes m square v square by 2m. That is simply we are multiplying the numerator and denominator with the small m. So it becomes m square v square by 2m. The m square v square is nothing but mv whole square. So mv is mass into velocity is nothing but momentum. So it is given by v square. Now the expression for energy is modified as E is equal to v square by 2m, from which we get P is equal to square root of 2me. Now we are getting the relation between momentum of a particle with respect to kinetic energy. E is the kinetic energy of the moving particle. So we get P is equal to square root of 2mg. Now substituting this P value in the expression for lambda, we know lambda is equal to h by p. So this is the general expression. So wavelength associated with the moving particle, that is the de Broglie wavelength, is given by lambda is equal to h by p, where the p is the momentum. So this p can be replaced by square root of 2mg. Therefore, we get expression for lambda in terms of kinetic energy as lambda is equal to h by 2mg, where E is the kinetic energy of the particle. Therefore, we get a relationship between the wavelength of a particle with respect to the kinetic energy of the particle. There is nothing but lambda is equal to h by square root of 2mg. So the first important expression is lambda is equal to h by p. Second important expression is lambda is equal to h by square root of 2mg, where m is the mass of the particle, E is the kinetic energy of the particle. So we get a relationship between wavelength and kinetic energy of the particle. Now we want to know the de Broglie wavelength associated with the electron. Now we consider electron. This electron is in motion. So let us consider an electron of mass m, charge E, so which is accelerated because it should be in motion. So in order to get the motion of the electron, now we apply a potential difference or voltage V for this electron. So once it is present in a potential difference or voltage field of V volts, automatically it is going to be accelerated. The meaning of accelerated is it is going to be in motion. Just we want to keep the electron to be in motion. In order to keep the electron to be in motion, so what we are doing is we are imposing a potential difference of V volts to the electron. So automatically it is going to be accelerated and it will be in motion. So in this case, the energy applied by the electron will be equal to E into G, and this amount of energy applied by the electron keeps the electron to be in motion. Therefore, it will have the kinetic energy of mv square. So by the application of the V volts of a potential difference to the electron, so that electron will acquire energy equal to E into V. Due to occurring of this energy, so it will be in motion, so it will have kinetic energy of mv square. So this amount of energy EV is keeping the electron to be in motion, or it is going to be associated with the kinetic energy of the particle. Therefore, these two will be equal in magnitude. Because the electron is going to be accelerated, it should be kept in motion with the help of applying a potential difference for this electron. So the energy acquired by the electron due to application of this potential difference V is nothing but E into V. due to the appointment of this energy, it will be in motion. That means this energy will keep the electron to be in motion corresponding to kinetic energy of the electron. Therefore, this energy applied to the electron will be converted as the kinetic energy to keep the electron to be in motion. Therefore, this kinetic energy which is applied should be equal to the energy applied by the electron to the application of V volts. So equating these two, we get half mv square is equal to EV, or mv square is equal to 2 EV. Now, if you multiply the left hand side and right hand side by m, so we get m square v square is equal to 2 mev, and correspondingly we get mv is equal to square root of 2 mev. So mv is nothing but p. So we get the expression for momentum p is equal to square root of 2 mev. Now, if we consider the deep Dirac wavelength, it is given by lambda is equal to h by p. So this is the general expression which we have seen. So the wavelength is given by h by p, but p can be replaced by square root of 2 mev. So finally we get expression for lambda for electron is lambda is equal to h by square root of 2 mev, where h is a Planck's constant. M is the mass of electron, E is the charge of electron, V is the potential difference to which it has been accelerated to get motion of a electron. So if we consider H Planck's constant, we know that value. Mass of electron also we know, and if we consider charge of electron is also we know. Therefore, if we substitute those corresponding values, that is Planck's constant as 6.626 to the power of minus 34, and 2 into the mass of electron is 9.1 to the power of minus 31. Charge has 1.6 to the power of minus 19 into V. Therefore, if we substitute the values of H, M and E, correspondingly, finally we are going to get the expression as lambda is equal to 12.26 into 10 to the power of minus 10 by root V. So this 10 to the power of minus 10 can be replaced in terms of Armstrong units. So finally we are going to get the expression as lambda is equal to 12.26 by root V Armstrong units. So the wavelength associated with the accelerating electron in the presence of potential difference of V volts is given by 12.26 by root V Armstrong units. So finally we get the wavelength associated with the moving electron is lambda is equal to 12.26 by root V Armstrong units. So finally we are getting the expression for lambda. So first we get the expression for lambda in terms of momentum, lambda is equal to h by p. Then we got the expression for lambda in terms of kinetic energy as lambda is equal to h by square root of 2 mg. Then we are getting the expression for lambda for electron. If electron is moving or accelerating with a potential difference of V volts. So in that case, the corresponding wavelength associated with the electron is given by lambda is equal to 12.26 by root V Armstrong units. So which is expressed in terms of Armstrong units. If it is in meter, then 12.26 to the power of minus 10 by root V. Next parameter is wave number. If the wave is associated with a moving particle, so in that case, we define wave number is nothing but the reciprocal of wavelength. If you take reciprocal of wavelength, so that parameter is known as a wave number. Now for electron, if you consider the wave number, so 1 by lambda is equal to, already we have seen lambda is equal to h by square root of 2 mev. Therefore if you take 1 by lambda, it becomes square root of 2 mev by h. So previously we have seen lambda is equal to h by square root of 2 mev. So this is the expression for lambda in terms of mass of electron, charge of electron, and then differential difference applied to the electron V. So if you take 1 by lambda, reciprocal of that is nothing but a wave number. So that wave number is given by 1 by lambda is equal to square root of 2 MeV by H, which will be per meter. So previously the unit for lambda is meter. So 1 by lambda means it is per meter. The unit is per meter. So reciprocal of the decoupling wavelength, it will give you the wave number. Next one is wave velocity. Now if it is a particle, then V is the velocity of the particle. But if we consider the corresponding wave, that wave also will be in motion along with the moving particle. So we have to consider the wave velocity. Now for this, if we assume that U is the wave velocity of the matter waves, so in that case, we know that E is equal to h nu. So according to Planck's quantum theory, energy of the photon is given by E is equal to h nu, from which we get nu is equal to E by h. Now if you assume that the energy is equal to kinetic energy because the particle will be in motion, then only we have the waves associated with the moving particle. So if E is equal to kinetic energy, then the expression becomes half mv square by h. Now this half mv square we are converting into the momentum. So that can be done multiplying the numerator and denominator with m. So in that case, we get m square v square by 2m into h. So that m square v square is nothing but p square. So we get p square by 2m into 1 by h. So frequency in terms of momentum. So frequency is given by p square by 2mh. Now multiplying, dividing numerator and denominator by h. So for this expression, that is p by 2mh, we are multiplying and dividing the numerator and denominator by h. So in that case, it becomes h by 2m into p square by h square. That means in this case we are multiplying the numerator and denominator with h. So h into p square by 2m into h into h means h square. So this can be reduced to h by 2m into 1 by lambda square, because this one lambda is equal to, it is given by h by p. So we get lambda is equal to h by p. So if we take lambda square, so it becomes h square by p square. If we take 1 by lambda square, that is nothing but p square by lambda square. So p square by lambda square can be represented by 1 by lambda square. So finally we get frequency is equal to h by 2m into 1 by lambda square. Now we take the wave velocity. So wave velocity is nothing but the product of frequency and wavelength. It is the product of frequency and wavelength. Therefore, the wave velocity u is equal to, frequency is nothing but nu. Wave velocity is lambda. Therefore, frequency is h by 2m into 1 by lambda square into lambda. So this is the expression for frequency. This is the expression for wavelength. So multiplying these two, so we get h by 2m lambda. So finally we get the expression for velocity. U is equal to frequency into wavelength, that is h by 2m lambda. So finally the expression for velocity, wave velocity, it's not a particle velocity, it's a wave velocity. The expression for wave velocity is given by h by 2m lambda. So it is given by h by 2m lambda. So we know the expression for wave number. Wave number is nothing but the reciprocal of the wavelength, that is 1 by lambda. So corresponding expression becomes the square root of 2m e by h or meter. Now if we consider wave velocity, so when the particle is in motion, correspondingly it is having the waves associated with it. So the corresponding velocity of the wave, if it is u is the velocity of the wave, then we know that the energy of the particle is given by h nu. Therefore, u is equal to E by h. But E is, since the particle is in motion, the energy should be equal to the kinetic energy of the particle. So half mv square by h. Now multiplying the numerator denominator with m, so we get m square v square by 2m 2h here. That m square, v square can be replaced by p square. So we get p square by 2mh. Now again multiplying the numerator and denominator by h. So we get h by 2m into p square by h square. P square by h square can be replaced by 1 by lambda square. Therefore finally we get the frequency of the wave is given by h by 2m lambda square. So in that case, if you consider the wave velocity, so wave velocity is given by product of frequency and wavelength of the wave. So frequency is h by 2m lambda square, wavelength is lambda, therefore its value becomes h by 2m lambda. So lambda square, so get cancels. So the remaining term is it becomes h by 2m lambda. So finally we get the value of the wave velocity is nothing but h by 2m lambda. Next one we see the properties of the de Broglie waves. So for this we will see the properties of the de Broglie waves next class. So let us see what we have studied today. Since the light behaves as a particle as well as a wave, it is having a dual nature. And if we want to relate the particle as well as the wave nature, then there should be a relationship between the parameters which is related to a particle, parameters which are related to the wave. So these are the parameters which are required to describe the particle behavior, and these are the parameters which are required to explain the wave behavior. So the particle which is going to behave as a particle as a wave, so there should exist a relationship between these parameters related to particle and these parameters related to the wave. So those two can be related by considering the Planck's quantum theory. So once if we consider the Planck quantum theory, we get the emission of a photon. This photon, when it is in motion, will be acting as a particle, satisfying all these parameters. At the same time, it will be acting as a wave, satisfying all the parameters for a wave. Therefore, this photon is behaving as a dual nature. Is having a dual nature. So de Broglie extended the same concept of a photon to a particle which is in motion. So we can take any particle which is in motion, definitely it is associated with a wave. So this concept is known as de Broglie concept or de Broglie hypothesis of a matter waves. So the corresponding expression we have derived for de Broglie hypothesis of a matter wave, where the particle will have a wave nature and particle nature, both the dual nature of the matter. So in that case, finally we find the expression for lambda is going to be the corresponding wavelength of the wave associated with the particle is lambda is equal to h by p. Therefore, if any particle is in motion, definitely it will have a wavelength associated with it, and that wavelength is given by lambda is equal to h by p. And similarly, we derived the lambda value in terms of kinetic energy of the particle. Whenever the particle is in motion, definitely it is having the kinetic energy. So that kinetic energy is given by half mv square. So modifying this kinetic energy in terms of its momentum. So in that case, we get momentum is equal to square root of 2mg. So we get lambda in terms of the kinetic energy as lambda is equal to h by square root of 2mg. Now we are expressing lambda in terms of kinetic energy. Previously we have lambda in terms of momentum. Now we have the expression for lambda in terms of kinetic energy. And similarly for electron, whenever the electron is in motion, by the application of the voltage V, it will be accelerated, it will be in motion. So correspondingly we get the wavelength of the electron as lambda is equal to square root of 2meV. Substituting the values of h, m and e, that is reduced to lambda is equal to 12.26 by root V into Angstrom units. So in terms of Angstrom units, we are representing lambda as 12.26 by root V, where V is the applied voltage to accelerate the electron. Then wave number reciprocal of lambda, so it becomes square root of 2m ev by h. And if you consider the corresponding wave velocity, so wave velocity is represented by h by 2m lambda. So the corresponding wave velocity is h by 2m lambda. Therefore, we know the relationship between of lambda in terms of momentum, lambda in terms of kinetic energy, and lambda in terms of the applied voltage to accelerate the electron, and also the expression for wave number and the corresponding expression for wave velocity. So next class we will see the properties of the de Broglie waves. So how de Broglie waves will behave here when the particle is in motion. So I hope